welcome back to the new episode of Kääpä Brothers, 2020, October. It's almost the end of the year, and we are back with a new topic, and it's going to be disclaimer about veganism again. I get vegetarians, but vegans. Give me a break.
I mean, it's your own personal choice. I don't go telling you what to eat.
Exactly. And this is approximately the kind of things we're going to be discussing today. We are going to be discussing bad arguments against
about
veganism. Yeah.
Or, not only against, but also about. Well, yeah, they're mainly kind of against, as they are trying to discredit veganism. But there are also kind of things vegans themselves tend to get hung up about without any real good reason.
Okay. Since you proposed this topic, why don't you start us off here?
First of all, I want to cheerio everybody in the room. Cheerio, everybody in the room.
I'm drinking Grolsch.
I'm having the good old Jaffel. Fork.
Cheers.
Kolsch. Ka-ching!
Tastes so damn good. Damn good.
That's so...
Ooh.
That's strong stuff.
Ooh, that... Yeah.
And I also have some homeopathic lager.
Oh.
Ooh, that's strong stuff.
As well? Oh no. You're only drinking strong stuff then.
Well, stronger. It's even stronger.
Let's hope you'll make it to the end of this show then.
I'll just reveal incriminating and embarrassing things about me throughout, increasingly. So no worries.
These are my socks, by the way. Just so you know. There's nothing to get worried about, okay? Everything is good.
All right. So, I mean, there are probably bad vegan arguments we could talk about, like this personal choice thing and everything. But what I really wanted to also highlight here is how when you are too hung up in a certain mode of thinking that you miss the point, and here especially about veganism. So what in this context I want to bring up a very nice term, which is kind of already going back to a topic we have discussed before, and although we're risking beating a dead horse here again, it's called white veganism. So it's about the intersection, so to say, or I would rather call it the conflation, but of white culture and veganism. So
we have a bone to pick with that subject. We talked about this topic because this topic came to our mind because we found this article by Vice. A publisher I used to respect a lot, actually, when I first found out about them back in 2013, 12 or something like that. They had really cool articles, but the more they have progressed into the future, the more nonsensical the topics are. They sound like BuzzFeed nowadays, and BuzzFeed is not cool.
Yeah.
BuzzFeed also used to be kind of nice. I don't know, maybe like 6 years ago. But not anymore.
I wasn't too aware of BuzzFeed until they started putting up very weird stuff.
Maybe that's no coincidence.
What I've always found a little bit, what I found a little bit annoying also about Vice in particular is this condescending tone in which they usually talk. It's kind of let's deliberately display the views of others in a very unfavorable light, just because it's fun to do so. I don't know really the motive. It doesn't really serve any purpose. That's but be that as it may, also in parallel to or closely after this Vice article, there was also an Instagram post which all talked about the same type of issue, white veganism. Yeah. I don't know if it's best to start with the Instagram post, even because it's very short and it's basically
will be more suitable for the conversation.
Yeah, but this Vice article has one aspect that is like full on the face contradiction, and they don't seem to even notice. But I will come to that afterwards. So, in this Instagram post, it starts off with "White veganism is a problem." It's by a channel called Active Feminists. So this is they clearly espouse an intersectional view of all social issues, and this also displays very well how if you insist on looking at this with an intersectional lens, you will kind of do it at the cost of the well-being of animals.
Yeah.
So here it starts off directly with describing what white veganism is. So I'll quote: "White veganism is a prioritization of animal welfare over that of the humans who produce the food. Many white vegans blatantly care very little about the working conditions of farmers in the global south or immigrant farmers working in the global north. Too often there is no general conversation regarding race and the colonial nature of plant-based mass production." So you have to bring up colonialism somehow here. I mean, probably the viewer can guess already why colonialism and why the global south and everything is a thing, and it's basically concerning superfoods that as they claim here, is marketed towards vegans, but which is also a statement which is, as put there, blatantly false. Superfoods are not vegan foods, but
no.
Yeah, and they are often produced in South America and Africa, and the working conditions for the farmers picking the fruits in particular are horrible, and also environmental impact of, for example, water shortages in the surrounding areas, maybe also like pesticide use and stuff like that to grow the crops, and this is one of the issues that we basically all face when we import food from elsewhere in the world. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of dilemma because not buying the food is not obviously better, but we'll come to that later. Because in a different type of anti-vegan argument that also is going to be discussed. Okay, yeah. So shall I just read again what they're writing, or try to just summarize more quickly? Okay. Farms and farmers in the global south are now being exploited. The wording here is also very, very convenient. It is technically true what they say here. Farmers and farmers in the global south are now being exploited. But it sounds very much that like they weren't exploited before. It's kind of, we have, due to the fact that we want certain foods, we have created new exploitation which wasn't there before.
That's exactly how it sounds
wasn't there
like.
Before part is exactly not true. It's but we'll also come to that point when we discuss this next issue that I wanted to get at. Ooh, I'm teasing it very much. So they write
teasing.
Plants such as chickpeas can. Don't be such a tease.
Teasy weezy.
lemon cheesy. Plants such as chickpeas, quinoa, avocado, cashew, and coconut now have to be mass-produced to satisfy Western consumers' demands for foods such as hummus, cashew butter, and coconut milk. This has a disastrous impact on the price of these plants, the welfare of farmers, and the land itself. That's all basically technically true, although the insinuation that it's a newly created problem due to consumer demand for superfoods in particular is the misleading part here. So white veganism borrows from different cultures, sometimes without credit. This, I think, is the most insane of them all, and we can then go also to the Vice article because it also addresses this one thing which I found like blatantly contradictory there. Like crumbly blocks of tofu instead of ground meat, jackfruit instead of pork, collard greens wraps instead of tortilla, quinoa, chia seeds. All these foods originated in communities of color who have been eating these for hundreds of years, irrelevant point, before they were rebranded for white people.
God damn. Oh my god, this fucking the wording and the way these informations are put out really triggers me.
The fact that they have been eating stuff which we now discover is not a problem, not an issue. Food doesn't belong to people. Food doesn't belong to people.
No.
Of course, there's an argument about that you should try to purchase locally grown food to mitigate your, but in particularly green footprint, carbon footprint. But there's nothing bad about eating foods from other cultures. And in the Vice article, I'll jump straight to that. They also talked about that. Here it's said, so here they complain about the opposite, that or the opposite of what they just claimed here, that they don't credit the originators of these foods.
Yeah.
So that's what they accused them of here. But here they are hung up about the opposite, about them calling the recipes according to regions. So here in the article it reads, so it's about one black vegan, so black with capital B, called Afia Amoako. And she didn't see herself reflected in the white vegan community. And they said, they often touted recipes, African peanut stew and Asian stir fry that rely on racial stereotypes, said Amoako. And this statement is so... damn, now my screen shut off. Well, I hope I can... I'll just pull out this thing then. There's no use. Hang on.
Whoops.
Like this. Do you still hear me?
No.
Am I still there?
No, you're not here anymore. I can't see you. Yeah, I can see you. I can hear you as well.
Okay, great.
Credit.
So, so apparently it's relying on racial stereotypes to call the peanut stew that you do call make African peanut stew or stir fry, Asian stir fry. But in the same breath, they then also complain about the fact that these foods are often not credited. I don't find the exact line here, but that's... crap, I thought it was more easy to find.
Well, they're kind of doing it when they're saying... Go on.
Pardon?
Go on.
Yeah. Well, the claim has been made on both via the Instagram post thing, but also in the Vice article. You damned if you do it, you damned if you don't, so to say.
That's exactly what it sounds like.
When we talk about this, the problem with talking this way about cultural appropriation and stuff like that is that they ignore the fact that there is such a thing as cultural appreciation, or how to call it. Because it cannot be the alternative we strive for cannot be that certain cultures don't eat certain foods.
Yeah.
Mixture of culture is something that must be allowed to occur. I think most people agree with this as being obviously true.
Yeah.
And calling it African peanut stew, or what it was called. Okay, sure, you could call it Ghanaian a peanut stew, or Nigerian, or whatever.
Alex,
more precise, but I don't think
wait,
that
Alex,
would do
wait,
the job
wait.
either.
Okay, we're back. Alex, you said it's easier to call it. They could have called it something different than African stew, and then I
be more precise or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
Nigerian or whatever country peanut stews are, or this type that the recipe tries to have you cook originates from, but I don't think that would have done the job either. So
probably not.
Being
no.
this kind of at least appearing this kind of cynical about everything. I don't think they actually think they're cynical. I think they think this is the kind of way you have to think about it, not realizing that it's kind of untenable. But yeah, we should just try to urge the normal listener who doesn't necessarily follow everything that's as strongly as these articles suggest one should. They hopefully can see the value in cultures mixing and the need for mutual appreciation of other cultures.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so they complained about that, and we can go back to the Instagram post. Then the next image was: the industrialization of meat and dairy products comes from European colonialism. Many communities in the global south have built a significant part of their diets around plant foods such as rice, corn, beans, wheat, etc. Settler colonialism and corporate capitalism was a precursor of unethical farming methods. Sure, kind of, but they also were precursors for extremely easy farming methods. Capitalism made it, if you want to put the blame for capitalism on that, you have to also grant them that the industrialization of agriculture made the working conditions for farmers also a lot better, because they didn't have to plow the fields themselves and everything. But yeah, it's generally only take it's kind of a lie by omission that you only point out effects that were not so favorable, and ignore how this very same thing made good things possible too. So it's always a trade-off. It's not a thing that's good and bad, but ignore kind of leaving out the positive things that came about thanks to corporate capitalism here is always a thing you have to do if you're going to be honest about it.
Yeah.
Then you can do a kind of cost weight analysis or something in the end of what if the bad things are worth the good things, or vice versa. But you can't just pretend that they don't exist, and one side doesn't exist. I mean, the other, if someone just points to how great capitalism is and says, look, they made this and this possible, then you also can make the same accusation.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
wait. Before we carry on, do you have more things to say about that, or do you want to continue talking about something else now?
Like white veganism.
Yeah.
You mean
the article?
The article. Are the Vice article or the Instagram post?
The Vice article, yeah, and the Instagram post, whatever. Both. You were talking about both of them.
Yeah, I know. I quoted from the Vice post because I wanted to show how it kind of says the exact opposite of what they are complaining about in this article, in this post. But and even, which I now couldn't find the quote for, but they even contradict themselves within the article. So they first say that when they name it, they don't do it right, but they also complain about them not naming it.
Okay.
Yeah, general. Do you have any things about the Vice article in particular, or?
No, not really. Maybe I did this much more generally. I made my.
Yeah. No, I also have more general points to add, but we can maybe just plow through the post. It's just 2 more pictures, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
Or no, a little bit more, but we'll just read through them and then we can maybe just go to our general points.
Okay.
Many BIPOC communities eat meat sparingly, if at all. Back in Madagascar, we ate meat occasionally, but when we did, we bought meat from the butcher. They would present us with the carcasses and we chose the pieces we wanted to buy. For big occasions like weddings and housewarmings, as tradition, we would slaughter a whole cow ourselves to feed all the guests. We made sure not to leave anything to waste, not even the feet or the intestines, because we knew we had to be that what had to be sacrificed for our meals. It's if you switch the word animal for human, this would sound completely sadistic and sociopathic.
Can you please repeat that? Can you please repeat that, because you were frozen for me just back then.
Oh, okay. You heard my quote, right? What I finished reading.
No.
My comment you only didn't hear, right?
No, I didn't hear the quote.
Okay, so shall I just read the whole thing again and then we'll cut that out? Or
do that. Or okay. we'll leave it in.
Many BIPOC communities eat meat sparingly, if at all. Mm-hmm. Back in Madagascar, we ate meat occasionally, but when we did, we bought meat from the butcher. They would present us with the carcasses and we chose the pieces we wanted to buy. For big occasions like weddings or housewarmings, as tradition, we would slaughter a whole cow ourselves to feed all the guests. We made sure not to leave anything to waste, not even the feet or the intestines, because we knew what had to be sacrificed for our meals.
Okay.
Yeah. If you switched out animal for human, this would sound completely sadistic and psychopathic.
It would, yeah.
It's not animals are not a sacrifice you make.
It sounds like an excuse to do it. I mean, we are doing it well. That's why we should be able to do it. That's why we should be allowed to do it. That's what.
There's no good way to kill and there's no good way to kill a being that doesn't want to die. That's just a realization you have to make. But they just kind of pretend that there's nothing wrong with killing an animal for food if you do it efficiently or something. That's still a problem.
It is, yeah.
So now they go and tell you what one should do. So, if you're vegan for the environment, you should also care about BIPOC farmers who produce the food. They are part of the environment too. Equivocation fallacy, environment used in 2 different ways. Environment, vegans care for environment. That's not about conditions for a community or something. It's about the quality of the air and the soil and the food and stuff like that. It's a purely health kind of, or global health thing, not so
that's true.
Conflating the 2 meanings of environment is kind of a very sneaky way to mislead them. You should probably care about both, but the one thing is not the same thing as the other.
Yeah.
If you're vegan because you want to be kind to animals, kind to animals, you should also be kind to the farmers in the global south who are sacrificing their lands and welfare to produce your food. Okay. If you're for animal rights, humans are animals, so animal rights implies human rights. But this also implies here that the text that by buying vegan food, you're contributing to bad working conditions for farmers, which is absolutely not obvious at all.
Yeah. I mean,
if you're vegan because,
I mean, if you're going to say this, I think the whole argument crumbles if you look at the fact that not only vegans eat these vegan foods. If you take,
it would mean that. If it were, it would mean that vegans would eat more than 100 times more of these foods than the regular person, because vegans only make up 1% of the population or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Even if it's 3% or something, or 5%, it would be 20 to 30 to 40 or whatever times more. It's a ridiculous amount of food they'd have to eat only from these. So it would be all of the calories and more, basically.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, it's not good math. No, that's true.
Quick math.
Yeah.
Quick maths. Yeah.
Quick maths.
Quick maths.
Maths.
Veganism is not a single issue cause, but an intersectional one. Here they now explain why intersectionality is a good thing here. Focusing on the suffering of animals doesn't leave much room to focus on the human elements core to the vegan mission.
Why?
Veganism.
Why do you get? How did this person get come to this conclusion? Is it something I missed there? Maybe I didn't hear it, but honestly,
if you focus only on animals, of course if you focus on nothing but animals, then you're going to not focus on other things.
But we concluded that humans are animals as well, right?
Yeah.
I guess they are separating that in this post. It must be, otherwise it doesn't make any sense.
Veganism is not just about animals. Well, it's if you think about them separating humans and animals, this kind of makes sense. So it's probably true. Yeah. You can be vegan, not cruelty free. People are part of the environment, so if you care about the environment, you should also care about the welfare of people of color. And that's the end.
I think this whole post is it could be. There are important things mentioned in this post. I have to be completely honest with you. I think some of those things don't make much sense. I just don't get why they worded it like that. It sounds like a personal attack. No, it doesn't sound like a personal.
It has nothing to do with veganism. They have nothing to do with veganism. These things. The idea that vegans kind of only focus on animals at the cost of humans. It's a cliche that's not even true. It's implying this is also a logical fallacy. It's the fallacy of composition. So if something is true of parts of a thing, that must be true for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a valid inference.
Yeah.
So even if there are probably there are crazy vegans, literally crazy vegans who think nothing but animals matter.
Yeah,
but
I think
that's not
surely
is in no way implied, as in no way follows from veganism. So you cannot blame that on veganism any sensible way.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
So I tried to also then using this. The Vice article and this post to summarize how I understand that they mean white veganism. So my main things there probably were this focusing more on animal injustices than human injustices, and ignoring that vegans ignoring other issues that also perpetrated by whiteness, so to say, like colonialism and capitalism and stuff like that. That's one of the things that I got from it, and also kind of not respecting other people's cultural practices, which is also kind of crazy.
You mean by this the example with the only ate meat sparingly and ate the whole thing?
Exactly.
Okay. That's it's kind of being implied. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but also if you look elsewhere. I think the article also implied this very strongly.
Okay.
And yeah, so I mean, if you really wanted to steelman this position, I think the best way would be to basically, agree that there exists other injustices in the world, but nothing about veganism makes these things better, makes these things worse, obviously, in an obvious way. So if one wants to say that they do, they have to make the case for that first. But more importantly, veganism might even improve some of these things. For example, they could the problem with intensive land use and destroying the environment is a big side effect of meat production.
Yeah.
But generally, this one point that veganism is not about the environment. First of all, many people call themselves vegan due to the environment, but the ethical position of veganism is not. It doesn't have to do with environment really. The main focus there is that an animal's life is just worth more than other people's cultures. It's worth more than your taste, your transient taste pleasure. Just in the same way that, for example, it would be wrong to enslave or kill or torture or sexually abuse humans. It doesn't mean that they are just as bad, but it means that the same logic applies. If you think that it's completely wrong to do that for humans, what trait is it that is different for humans and animals, that if it were true for humans, it would justify doing this to humans? There is no such trait, Alex, really, if you think about it.
Let's maybe assume some traits which animals have that make them inferior. What could it be? That they're less intelligent?
I've heard people's actual... that's one of them, less intelligent, but then you could always go to severely mentally disabled people to draw to trait equalize in this respect.
Yeah, I got that info. Have you seen the video from
Cosmic
Skeptic, Alex? He's called exactly like you.
Alex O'Connor.
Yeah, Alex O'Connor, exactly. He had this video about I think it was a meat eaters case for veganism or something like that. Before he was a vegan, he is now, by the way. He said exactly that. And
he's a pretty good spokesperson too.
Yeah, he is. He makes it really obvious to me. It's like
nice speeches about
some of those points were even to me kind of that's true. Why haven't I thought about it? It makes much sense. Yeah, exactly. The example with the severely disabled person, a severely disabled person who is exactly as intelligent as an animal. Just a hypothetical situation that they should have the same rights. It could be you can't say kill the animal, but don't kill the disabled person if it's all about intelligence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's not intelligence. We can see from that.
Exactly.
And it's called maybe it's them not being able to follow the social contract. That's also an argument I heard, but that's also true for severely mentally disabled people. They don't follow. They don't follow. I mean, it's natural. The more intelligent eat the less intelligent, but that would also not apply for. I mean, the fact that we take the way we think about mentally disabled people who are like in need of help from others, we see it as our obligation to help them, to give them a good life. It's not even like we would that we treat that our idea is that we should regard them less in general. So the closest thing that we can see where we can match the traits of humans and animals, so that's the way in which humans are superior, so in quotes, to animals, are not as pronounced, is for mentally disabled people, and we clearly see how we would never treat them as like we treat animals. So if you go like, we treat them very well if they are less intelligent than normal humans, but all of a sudden if they're not humans anymore, forget about that.
Yeah.
Like people, beings in need of protection and stuff like that, we protect them. We don't. Okay, let's kill them on mass scale. I don't know. That doesn't.
If
they might be tasty.
The point you just said about they don't abide the social rules,
contract,
social contract. I mean, how would you the question I would have is how would you how could you say imply this in nature? If would it be a situation if maybe like a lion killed another lion or something, then we could sentence that killing lion to death and then eat it, but that still would be you could only then eat animals who are being bad animals. Who did something illegal, basically.
Yeah, but we also wouldn't, if a mentally disabled person, or even also just a someone with mental issues, I don't know what they call, if they did something bad, we would take into account their diminished capabilities of understanding the impacts of their actions and not punish them as severely.
Yeah.
So we understand that we can only demand beings follow the social contract who are intelligent, morally speaking at least, enough to understand that one should follow it.
Mm-hmm.
If they cannot understand to follow it, then it makes no sense to hold them by those standards.
Yeah. I would like to continue with the more general points. If you allow me,
sure.
Maybe I can list some up. I don't want to list maybe all of them because there's a lot. These are mainly gathered from YouTube videos and my own experience because I tend to have the habit of commenting on the post on Facebook and I maybe starting with some comment that could be interpreted as maybe being edgy, but generally I don't mean it like that. Well, sometimes I say okay, well, that's a topic for another day. We shouldn't concentrate on that. Well, anyway, no. Yeah, these are it's a combination of things I've witnessed in real life and in YouTube. YouTube videos of activists. I like to start with a kind of a maybe a little bit of a topic that is only loosely, well, not loosely, but only a little bit bruisely connected to veganism, and that would be hunting. I've read that I've read as counter arguments for being vegan that you wouldn't say anything against the hunter, because the hunter, we need them to conserve a natural balance in nature.
Yeah.
And
a more scientific lingo, not to preserve the ecosystem.
Exactly. Yeah. And I kind of for a long time I thought this was true, but it seems like there could be many ways to go a different route than to use a hunter to clear up this whole mess.
Yeah.
For example, you could introduce natural predators again into the system, like for example wolves, which we chased out of this country which we live in right here in Germany centuries ago, and now that they're starting to go back, they're also already talking about shooting them again. I think that's so fucked up.
Although I'm not very sure about this natural predator argument when I thought about it, because you can easily make the case that you're creating even more suffering for the animal than the animal being shot in the head or something is a better death than it being torn to shreds by a wolf.
That's true.
And now that we already have the problem of trying to solve the fact that an ecosystem, like, let's just assume that that's even true, because the argument there is also has problems in and of itself, the stability of ecosystem argument. But there would be, I think, better ways than to do it, other than introducing natural predators, and it goes generally in also trying to diminish like natural suffering in the wild, so to say. But introducing contraception or something into the population, so stuff like that.
What do you mean? Something to
put in the food supply somehow, like contraceptives, so they're less fertile.
Okay, I see. Yeah, I don't know about that. It sounds like we would invade the.
Well, we are doing that already. It's not. It's
that's like, true, but it shouldn't be to do it as little as necessary.
Isn't the main thing that we want is to have less suffering, right?
I guess, yeah.
Yeah. So, this is also only providing this actually does provide less suffering, but I think it's not impossible to see that it could. Then I would say there's no real problem in introducing contraception, like intervening in nature in that way, because besides maybe like side effects that we cannot anticipate right now, the fact that it's not natural, it might not be a good is definitely not a good justification to not do it, because not doing things that are natural has had countless benefits for the human context, like introducing medicine or
sure.
houses.
Okay, but Alex, like so I get what you're saying, but I have a question then. What if more wolves would try to come to a specific area, and if we really follow that thought that there should be as little suffering as possible, what would you do with the wolves? They have got to eat as well, right?
Yes, that's a bigger challenge, yeah.
If we introduce them to the region, or let them introduce themselves to the region.
That's a different issue, right? If we put them there deliberately, that's basically. Then we are actually deciding to create suffering. I mean, the wolves weren't there first before, we wouldn't. Yeah, but if they naturally moved there, migrated there for some reason, that would be a different issue, I would say.
Well, that's what I mean, because that's what the wolves are doing right now in Germany. They're coming back gradually.
You could also just, if it in like Yellowstone National Park, they also reintroduced like deliberately natural predators to the ecosystem, they transport them there, like quite literally. That's they also do that.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
So So that's one issue that I would raise, but I mean, this is a kind of controversial thing, but it may be the case that they don't actually need meat to survive, but all the nutrients in the right bioavailable way, and there may be ways to do that without meat. I mean, there's research into feeding cats a vegan diet, and there tends to be evidence that you can actually pull that off if you consider what kind of nutrients they actually need. So if you like also like supplement certain proteins and stuff like that that normally only exist in meat. That's seems to work just as well.
I see. Okay,
So,
well, that's interesting to know.
That's I mean, the reason meat carnivores survive on meat is not that it's there's a magic property of meat. It's that the nutrients are there in a certain ratio and certain way that they can be digested by the body. And if you can imitate that somehow, then that should also work. There's nothing like magical about food in that regard.
Yeah, okay.
Like,
but what about their natural instincts?
As long as you get your nutrients, it's good.
What about their natural instincts? If they have this bloodlust or something like that, is that something that?
That's a good question too.
Yeah.
I mean, then the question is, I mean, this gets complicated. Is it better to have a slightly less fulfilled carnivore, a predator, because he can't go after his bloodlust?
Yeah.
Or maybe he could even like give them hormone therapy, so to say. Like, maybe is actually an option. I mean, this is kind of just throwing ideas out there, but the thing is, we have never thought about these things in a animal welfare kind of way. So these are just wild ideas, but
that's true.
Yeah. So this is not a this doesn't disqualify veganism in any way or something like that. Just to make that clear in case people get weirded out by the fact that we talk about such interventions into nature.
I can understand why, but I also understand why it is. Well, I understand why, but maybe because there's something. It seems like I don't know. Maybe because we are not seeing this daily, that we are doing unnatural things all the time, and maybe there's also a case to be made that this is all natural because we are existing in nature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
but not the way where most of our DNA involved, so to say.
Yeah.
We have departed from that quite a lot already.
Yeah.
I think one of the problems is that's also a thing I want to get into. That's also a thing vegans often get hung up about because they usually also care about the environment, that they think of the ecosystem as something holy, and and I think there's a way in which it makes sense because apparently nature does its job decently. It has been able to do stuff for 4.5 billion years or 3 billion years. I don't know how long it took till life actually evolved. I think it's pretty quickly after the creation of Earth, actually. Formation, not creation. But we have already seen evidence that there are better ways to do it than how nature does it.
Okay.
Because an ecosystem in particular is valuable in the sense that it's a pretty decent way of keeping a balance in a region, but it does not imply that it's actually the best way. So we should always be open to that. Certain tweaks to how nature does things might actually be an improvement. The thing is, we have never approached these problems in that way. We have always our interventions in nature have always been in complete disregard of all the beings in there.
Okay.
Just like profit gain and
Let's
stuff
get to the next point.
So,
something I read a lot is I respect your choices, you should respect mine. This always, it used to throw me off a little because they show that they at least accepted the existence of veganism and understood it.
Vegans,
yeah, well, of the sentiment, I guess.
Well, the concept can exist without any followers. I think it's more important that there are followers.
Okay. But thinking about it, I think the first part of this sentence, "I respect your choices," is kind of a good way to open this thing because it really it contradicts the whole thing. It supports the thing. You should respect my choices. like give and take. Let's live together. Let's work together. Live and let live and stuff like that. But then if you think about it, it's not live and let live. It's live and let live and let somebody die so that I can live. To formulate it really complicatedly.
They're creating. I don't know. It's kind of an equivocation thing that they pretend that both choices are the same.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference in one choice.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Yeah, that's pointed out. It's one entails the killing of other beings, and there you can very easily see why putting it as a mere personal choice is not a valid necessarily way to put it, because when your choice has victims, it's not your personal choice anymore. Otherwise, the whole concept of liberalism
it's not personal anymore. It's not. It's a choice that makes somebody else or something else suffer.
Yeah, you don't get to decide about other people.
Yeah.
Or the beings.
Yeah.
Other people or the beings.
Yeah.
Like sentient beings, of course.
Okay, Alex, what do you say about this?
In case anyone thinks. Yeah.
Finish that one. Finish your thought.
In case anyone throws in, oh, what about plants?
Yeah.
We're talking about sentient beings, not all life. I wanted to. This is one thing I'm going to get. Want to get to also in one anti-vegan argument, but you can go to yours first.
Okay. Okay. Wait, I'll try to get the good one.
Or shall I say mine first?
Yeah, say yours first. Yeah.
Yeah. So one popular argument, and this is also one that vegans often get hung up by.
Yeah.
Is hypocrisy, though. Like, look, you're a vegan, so you care about this value, and look, if you care about this value, then you should do this, but you don't, so you're a hypocrite.
I get that a lot. I get that one a lot. Oh my god. Oh.
Yeah. So there's an obvious problem in that. Just because I behave hypocritically doesn't mean that veganism is wrong in any way. So, missed the point. Well done. But more importantly, the whole hypocrisy thing, it's not even obvious that there's a hypocrisy there. So I thought of 4 examples where this is often made. They vary in ridiculousness, but I've heard them all.
Okay.
So one is the most common one is like crop deaths, though. Like, what about crop deaths?
Yeah.
Shouldn't you be against crop deaths too? So, and I think I tried to put the argument in a more formal way. Like, veganism are against death. That's premise 1, so to say. That's the value that veganism supposedly hold. Yeah. Animals die when harvesting crops. Therefore, you should not ought not eat crops. So, because you are against death. And if you do, then you're a hypocrite.
Yeah.
The problem is that vegans are not against death. That's not the position. It's about causing. Unnecessary is always a stupid word, but unnecessary suffering. So in a way, it would be where the benefits from doing the suffering are not worth the costs, so to say. Are not worth the suffering. So you could say that, oh well, I kill animals because I like the taste. Then I would say that the suffering you inflict on animals for the taste pleasure is not worth it. That's the kind of way we are against suffering. So the first premise is already wrong. Vegans are not against death per se. That's not the position. So the fact that animals die during...
Alex, just to clarify, that doesn't mean that they are for death either.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
This statement, you're against all death, is just not a statement that is true.
Yeah.
And it's also a ridiculous statement if you think about it. We all know cases where death is justified, so to say. Like mercy killing or like self-defense and stuff like that. But
suicide?
And I don't know about justified, but it's perfectly in their right to do that.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I thought would be implied in that situation as well, because it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the other problem is that it's not obvious at all that animal. Well, if you then reframe the value as vegans are against unnecessary suffering, then it's not obvious at all that crop deaths are contradict this value, because it's not obviously true that that crop deaths are avoidable, and that it's better to not have crop deaths, considering the benefit that agriculture, for example, brings. This is again a trade-off again. So
it is, yeah.
You need to make the case that
I understand why people have a problem with that thing, with that way of thinking. It is kind of taking many things into consideration at once and kind of trying to eliminate
a holistic view.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to find out the most holistic way to do the job, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, but sometimes it's the Wild for Louter Museum.
The what?
The Wild for Louter Museum.
Ah, okay, yeah. That's actually, yeah. It can be a little bit how should we say, overwhelming. Yeah. And
actually, if you think about it,
let's think about it.
They may actually, considering that natural suffering, suffering in the wild for animals is actually pretty great, so pretty immense. It may even be morally bad to. It may actually not be morally bad to like chop them up when you harvest them, because they may have had a life of a lot more suffering anyway. This is, of course, but it's something that is not obviously false.
Yeah, it's something that's not obviously false. Yeah.
If you want to show that that the vegan is being a hypocrite, you need to show that this is obviously false, or that this is false. So, because it's not that's also the thing. The burden of proof doesn't lie on the veganism proving that he's not a hypocrite. The burden of proof is on the accuser.
Yeah.
Another
example thing, the burden of truth thing. That's something something that reappears in many different kinds of discussions and arguments made in these discussions. Yeah. That's interesting. That's some thing that always appears again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. Understanding who has the burden of proof is always very important in a discussion. And establishing that in the beginning is also very important for the discussion to work properly, because both assume that the other one has a burden of proof, which is only true for one of them.
Yeah.
The second example is mowing the lawn, which I've also heard. So because if you mow the lawn, you kill insects, and you are against unnecessary deaths. You could just leave your grass to grow. Why not? And then therefore you cause unnecessary suffering. So vegans who mow the lawn are hypocrites. Mm-hmm. There are also problems again. It's not obvious at all that mowing the lawn causes more suffering than it creates more suffering. Maybe that if you let your grass run wild, there are more animals there that can then be eaten by birds or something, or you are required by law to mow your lawn, so or not to let your grass wild too much, at least in some countries. And so if you wait too long, then you could be thrown out of a building, and then the lawn will be mown anyway, and more animals will die. So there are many.
That's true, but
and also
there's a case to be made that that is well, to an extent at least, kind of stupid to.
These are,
if a garden looks rough, as long as it doesn't attract any kind of any kind of damage thing, damageable things that cause damage, then it should be all right to do with your garden whatever you want, I think.
To an extent, I mean, you may by leaving it too wild too much, that you, I don't know, introduce birds there and they fuck up with other birds, and then you actually, I don't know, something like that.
Yeah.
It's I mean, these are objections that I am not in the obligation to prove are wrong, are correct. It's your job to prove that that this is actually unnecessary suffering that you cause. I'm just putting out objections, like plausible objections. Why I'm actually doing just a favor to the person, showing what kind of things he has to disprove. Actually, I could just say, no, you haven't shown that it's unnecessary death. Try again. I could also just do that.
Yeah.
So just to be clear,
I'm
not saying, look, these are really great objections.
Yeah.
Third is also very common: sweatshops.
Yeah.
Like vegans are against suffering. Sweatshops cause suffering. Therefore, vegans buying products produced in sweatshops are hypocrites. It's again not obvious that not buying products from sweatshops is actually going to create more or less suffering.
Alex, you're talking like this the whole time.
Individuals who work there.
Okay.
Sorry. Can you? Yeah.
No,
so it's not obvious that not buying products from sweatshops will make the working conditions better for the workers. This is one of those things that people just kind of assume, but when you think about it, I mean, there's already I can think of a very easy, plausible case. If nobody buys from that sweatshop, then that factory will be gone, and they will have even less. They have no money or they have to take up an even shittier job to feed themselves. Maybe possible. It's plausible at least. So it's not obvious how being part of the sweatshop chain is how you are supposed to morally act there. This is a complicated issue. Actually, this is actually a real dilemma. It's not clear if you do better than by buying or not buying. That's That's the thing that maybe people should be clear about. The last is the most ridiculous example is watching movies where there's some form of animal exploitation, like people riding horses or something. Then you're supporting that practice.
I've never heard that.
I mean,
before, but
it's the most obvious, but they can see in the most obvious sense that it's not obvious at all that you're going to create more animal suffering by watching a movie. I mean,
it's not obvious, no.
The same argument applies in all cases. It's the same type of argument. They assume some value about you. They put some empirical fact that you is relevant to that value. And if you then do that thing, then you're a hypocrite. You can always you can either challenge that's a value that you have. You can challenge whether this thing actually produces the outcome that you say. So, for example, if it contradicts its value in the first place, only then would it be right to call them a hypocrite if you can show these two things.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's basically. I wanted to, quickly get that point out there too.
What about the following thing, Alex? Argument. Morality is subjective. What would you say to that?
We don't believe in this concept generally. I mean,
no.
We don't say, well, he liked to kill this person. In his view, it was right to kill this person. So who are we to judge?
What about people from different regions? You know, for example, in Jewish communities, killing animals in a halal way, or maybe, I don't know,
kosher way.
Oh my God!
Kosher.
Kosher. God damn. Okay. We're going to get sniped.
Yeah.
Okay. Redundant.
Yeah. Halal slaughter is also one of the worst things you can do. It's basically this throat slitting without the bolt gun before or numbing. So they are fully conscious when they get the throat slit. That's great.
That's absolutely horrific.
But,
that's super fucking sadistically perverted. Why was this once sensible? I mean, it must have been, right? It was some kind of practice to disinfect them or something?
Well, no, it was get the blood out, but because they didn't have they don't have modern techniques like we have now to paralyze or to call it the animal.
So you just kept on with the tradition, basically.
Either I don't know how to kill. they had to kill it another way, and then the blood flow would stop, and then if they would then cut it open, then the blood flow wouldn't. Now they like knock it out and then have slit their throat so the blood still flows out. The same idea. The blood is supposed to flow out. That's why they have them not still be kind of alive.
Fucking damn it! That's fucked up. Yeah.
Yeah, but there, yeah. Do we say that cultures where they stone their adulterers to death, or homosexuals, or atheists, or
Christians,
yeah,
any kind of minority, basically, that is being hunted down and prosecuted for
like
just for being themselves.
India, the untouchable. I mean, there's always these cases you hear about, like these mass gang rapes. Oops, YouTube is not going to like this word. Gang rapes.
It's too late, Alex.
of the untouchable of a girl who belongs to the untouchable caste. You keep hearing about those cases, and it's all just they're cultural habits. We accept, or I hope most people would agree that this is not acceptable, even though it's their culture.
Alex,
so if we by the same token, we should not just.
Yeah, I think most people will agree, but I'm telling you, there are people who don't think that. I don't know. I don't remember which article it was, but it was on Tagesschau on the Facebook page, and it was something about. It was something like genital mutilation or something like that.
Female
may have been. Yeah. I'm not really sure. But in the comments, most people were like, "This is appalling." Blah 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 blah. And then somebody wrote "andere Länder, andere Sitten," which basically means other countries, other traditions, basically
other
habits. And it should be we don't want them to mess with our freedom, so we should leave them alone. But I don't understand how they can really say that. That's crazy.
Yeah, they're confused. They're just confused. Their moral compass is out of whack.
Yeah,
obviously. I mean, morality is subjective, but we all objectively care about not suffering and finding well-being. So. Due to this fact, we know what we want. So, and we know that certain things are not good for well-being, and we all want well-being. So let's do the things that actually maximize well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah, it might be subjective, but come on, people. We're not. This is not arbitrary stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, I have one which I get constantly as well. I think I get this one possibly most of the time, at least the most. Every time I have a discussion, this one is being dropped, I think, and that's animals eat animals. So it's all right for us to do that too, because we're also animals. But that's point. It's only okay to do this, to act as animals in this particular meat eating discussion. Nobody would say, okay, wait, lions rape the female lions,
or eat the
or kill the young
the cubs of their.
Yeah. Nobody would say, okay, well, if they can do it, then we should be able to do it. Nobody would say that. Nobody.
When someone makes that point, we should just first establish, are you saying that, like what they're actually saying? Does it mean, okay...
Good idea, yeah, that's a good idea.
Is it good because it's done in nature, or are you trying to say that animals dictate what what animals should do?
Yeah.
Like the way it's... I mean, it all probably boils down to the fact that, we don't do what nature does. We know that nature does not produce the best outcomes all the time. This thinking it does is a naturalistic fallacy. It's a fallacy for a reason. it's not a valid form of arguing. Yeah, but you can make the objection. Yeah, what about the instances where, I mean, you can also take things like that are natural for humans, like raping is natural for humans.
Yeah.
Or even like it's even arguments that infanticide is like killing newborns is human, like in very dire situations where you don't have enough resources to feed the whole group.
Yeah.
The first, it made evolutionary sense to kill the ones that have least chance of survival, and that would be the babies.
I read something about that. I read exactly this this scenario in a real situation that's happened within the last 100 years, and this book it's called in German. It's called Krieg hat kein weibliches Gesicht. I guess it's called War has no female face. Whatever that. Or I don't know if you can translate it that way, but at least in that book they talked about.
It sounds something that makes sense.
Yeah, they talked about females in the Second World War in Russia. So Russian soldiers, which were females, and one of them. I'm not going to talk about what the whole book is about. It's very harrowing. You should read it. But one situation they explained was, and this thing supposedly really happened. I can believe it. A woman got pregnant during the war, during the fights. So they were with their platoon or whatever you call it, and she had already given birth to the baby. It was alive. They were starving, and the baby was therefore couldn't get any milk from the mother because she couldn't produce anything because she was starving, and was crying all the time. So in order to save their own lives from the enemy, because they could easily spot these people now because of the crying baby, which you can't mute, they had to drown the baby, and that's what they did. And that's obviously a horrific thing to do, and it must fuck up your mind completely. This is one of the cases which war is the most terrible thing that humans have created. But that's the scenario where this would be the most logical thing to do. Yeah, but God forbid that ever happening.
I mean, it's those kinds of situations were kind of commonplace hundreds of thousands of years ago.
Yeah.
Imagine that. So then you can imagine that genetic mutation, which makes you more capable of doing that, it gives you less qualms to do it. Could have a selection pressure, so it's those genes had more chance of survival, and they get passed on. So therefore you can make an easy case that infanticide is natural, but we would all agree shouldn't do it.
Yeah, like I think this is why we evolve as a species. We learn about our own psyche, how we as people work, and we evolve. We adapt to the stuff we learn, basically. Alex, I want to throw another argument against you, and you tell me what you think about it. Some animals live a better life than they probably normally would have lived. You know, in these animal agriculture.
And then we kill them. Yeah, I mean, I've heard a similar argument also, which is to a certain extent kind of interesting to think about. That arguably wild suffering is even worse than the conditions in farms.
Arguably, yeah.
Arguably. So maybe if you take away wild land to create farms, you reduce suffering. So it's a morally better thing to do. So it's a similar kind of argument. So you give them a better life than they would have had in the wild.
But there are 2 points that you could say directly to dismantle this one. One being, they don't live full lives. They live approximately, I think what is Massentierhaltung in English again?
factory farming.
In factory farms, they well, I think you could say approximately all the animals which are made to become food, or cultivated to become food, they live only approximately a tenth of their normal lives, approximately.
Yeah.
And
I mean, even if
a good short life better than a long life that is not as good as those first 6 years of your life or something like that, doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe it is. I don't know. It's.
Yeah.
I think it's best argument I've heard. But one of the well, even if they did have full lives, but you couldn't also. I mean, let's put it like this: if the animal knew nothing that was about it was going to die, so the fact that they were going to die was complete secret from them. They were really happy before, and by extension, that would also mean that they don't see when other animals die, because other than they might maybe figure out that they might die and be killed one day.
Yeah.
And if they don't know anything about the death, like it's instant, no suffering, anything, well, yeah, it's the same way not a problem as it would be no problem for humans. So if you had a human who would not suffer, nobody would be saddened by their death. There would be no negative consequences of knowing that this happened. So because nobody knows that would happen.
Yeah.
So there were no suffering involved in that.
Yeah.
Then yeah, okay, a good life without and then end it without any suffering involved. Okay, that's not probably not a problem. But thing is, for animals, you can probably. It's impossible to do that with zero suffering, so that's a problem there already. But also, it's easy to see in the context of humans. If we lived in a society where we knew that this would happen to us, so we would be killed painlessly at some point, we wouldn't know it was coming. It would cause immense stress on us. That's the knowledge that we will just be gone from one moment to the next. And I think to a certain extent that also exists in animals.
Yeah, I
but
think
if
so
you
too.
could guarantee all those things.
In slaughterhouses, these animals do know that they are, well, at least it has been detected that some of them at least know that they are going to die, and they are afraid, and they're shivering, and then they're scared, and then they're being fed drugs to keep calm, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, this such a situation might not be morally problematic. Maybe you could make a case that it isn't.
Yeah.
But this is just not the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
So you can't say, if we did it this way, it would be okay. So the way we do it now is okay. That doesn't follow.
Yeah.
So giving them a better life than they would have had in the wild. That just means we should try to help the animals in the wild more. That doesn't say, okay, then let's kill them. I don't know. It doesn't. Just because you give something a good life doesn't allow you to kill them.
That's another good point. Yeah.
Obviously, be true for humans.
Yeah, exactly. Alex.
Look,
we have now been talking for about 1 hour and 20 minutes, maybe a little bit less. But do you have any other more general topics you want to discuss? I think we should maybe come to the end of this topic otherwise, because I think we should also end it here and not talk about the other topics anymore, because we are exceeding our limit.
Yeah, maybe we should do that like this in general.
Yeah, I think
that we try to keep it. I mean, I would like to give one real life example for this hypocrisy argument. I forgot to mention that.
Do that.
It's concerning Oatly.
Oh yeah, good one.
There was this Oatly scandal.
Yeah, good one.
Oatly. Basically, Oatly has an investor called Blackstone, and they support monetarily the Trump administration, and also other companies that cause huge deforestation in rainforests and cause bad working conditions, like support industries that have bad working conditions. So the claim is Oatly is basically contributing to deforestation of the rainforest, to Trump's funding and bad working conditions for workers. To see the problem in this style of argumentation, at first glance it seems like, yeah, okay, I should then probably not take Oatly, then I'll try some other different product, because you don't want to be associated with that, or you think, okay, better to be safe than sorry, you know.
Yeah.
But it should be very clear about why this is maybe not even a good choice, and therefore I formalized the argument a bit more to see the structure of it. So basically, it's kind of the same type of hypocrisy argument. They claim Oatly has a certain value, and the consumer buys Oatly has a certain value, which they now contradict if they purchase Oatly products.
Yeah.
So Oatly claims to be against climate change and deforestation of the rainforest. They never said anything about Trump, so the Trump thing is already not really it doesn't go against Trump's Oatly's values if Trump gets money by them, but let's say our value is also that Trump is not being funded in any way.
Yeah, okay, let's just say that.
Yeah. And Oatly has an investor called Blackstone, which also pays for industries that cause rainforest destruction and bad working conditions for workers. Therefore, Oatly supports Trump and rainforest deforestation. And if you buy Oatly products, you support it too. And therefore, you're a hypocrite. Therefore, Oatly or you are a hypocrite. And the reason this is invalid is, first of all, it is not clear that Oatly taking money from this investor causes more deforestation, causes Trump to get more money, or causes more bad working conditions than if they hadn't taken this money. This is a thing that is absolutely not obvious. I mean, for one, Oatly, Blackstone invests in companies that they think will get the money, and they would have put it somewhere else and gotten the money anyway. So them not taking this money would not have caused less. And then you could say, okay, well, you could say that about, I don't know, Nazi concentration camp people or something like that. So wanted to do it. The reason, the difference there is that it's even conceivable that Oatly not taking this money is worse for particularly the environment, like rainforest deforestation. The line of argument is basically Oatly is expanding, making their supply of their products, which are in terms of quality pretty popular and sought after. So people actually think Oatly milk is a good alternative to normal milk. Cow's milk.
Normal as in more common.
The common, yeah. So it's very realistic that if Oatly doesn't expand, less people will get good milk alternatives, and more cow's milk will be drunk, and thereby, due to the needed land to create the crops to feed the animals, more deforestation will take place. So by Oatly, because Oatly is such a good player in town in these regards, them expanding and making their product more available is very realistically better for the environment, because their product is actually there to be bought because it's tasty, it's cool, kind of their image is cool, they're easily accessible, they are they are not the cheapest, but they are cheaper than some, and possibly even cheaper if they are if they have more people buy their products,
probably,
and some regulations change. So it's not obvious that not buying Oatly, so not having them get profit, is good at all for the environment, and it's not obvious why they are thereby contributing to something which they are explicitly against, namely deforestation and worse working conditions, because they are not doing it themselves, and they are actually contributing to less of that via their product directly. And even if an investor might make money to fund other things that are not as great, it doesn't mean that they are creating more suffering in the process.
Yeah,
they are
exactly.
probably creating a more well-being.
Yeah.
It's
a kind of the thing that that example especially is a thing that would have thrown me off as well. Definitely, I'm just gonna be honest. But thinking about it that way is really it puts the whole thing into perspective, and you get it a little bit more. Yeah, I hadn't even heard about it until you told me about it. Well, I heard it before today, but you told me this originally for the first time. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always need to consider the purpose of a boycott. The boycott is nothing great in and of itself.
Yeah.
It might even be detrimental if it has no benefit. So if you just boycott the things and suffer, and what you do has no impact on the thing you're against, then you are not. And boycott is at best useless, and at worst even detrimental.
Yeah.
Like, one common argument against veganism is also that what use does it have for me if I go vegan? People are still going to eat meat and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But you not purchasing your boycott does actually make a difference.
Yeah.
That's a thing you need to realize. This whole thing is market driven, supply demand driven. Of course, it's also a mentality thing that makes you then see that animals are worth a decent life, regardless. But the action of being vegan actually makes a difference. I think that's also a very important thing to make clear in the end. And you can see here in this Oatly example how a boycott isn't always that. So if it were true that veganism would make no difference, if that actually were true, then being vegan might not be the best idea. Like, just leaving that out. Only for your conscience, maybe also for your health and all those things, but definitely not in causing less animal suffering.
Yeah, true. Good. I think we should stop this thing here. I can't stand looking at you anymore.
I think it's good.
No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's a good ender too. I think we tied the knot nicely on veganism again, and why it's actually a useful thing to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alex, we didn't do a 1, 1, 2, 2 countdown thing at the beginning, but shit. I think that's all right. We can do one now, and I think people. I hope people will forgive us. You can start.
Yeah, that's their favorite thing. Comments always. That's a most commented thing.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's crazy about these countdowns, and they're loving it. Alex, should we first do the 1, 1, 2, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Yeah. Okay, then.
Yeah.
Go.
People.
P.
A lot.
Black.
2.
Penis.
Testicle.
Dog.
Syndrome.
Causation.
I think we nailed it.
This time, my friend. Bye. Okay, well, I guess that's it.
Okay. Yeah. Bye, Felicia.
Bye, Felicias. Felicias.